Attitudes airs each Monday at noon on 88.9 WEIU FM. Now it's time for Issues and Attitudes.
And a good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes on this June 6th. My name is Jeff Owens, Director of WEIU Radio. My guest is Illinois State Representative Mr. Reggie Phillips. Welcome, Reggie.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Appreciate you coming back in on this Monday. I think I'll just start off by letting you have the floor for a couple minutes about just kind of where we're at and what's going on.
Well, I think I should just follow up with that with what happened at the end of the session year, which ended May 31st. As you know, we didn't get the budget, which nobody thought we were going to finish a budget. As you know, the Democrats during that last week brought out a $40 billion budget, which was $7 billion over what revenue that we take in. And as you know, the 2015 budget, they brought out, a 16 budget. They brought out a $4 billion bloated budget. So Illinois is taking the same shape as we've always taken, spend more than we take in, and, worry about revenues later. However, the good news, all right, at the end of that session day, which we ended about midnight, a little past midnight, still not creating it, but the governor was working with Senator Collerton and Speaker Madigan on coming out with a stopgap budget. Basically what it would be is a budget that would get us through December. I'm excited about that budget for Eastern University specifically, which is my district, and some for Lakeland College, which would fund Eastern to the tune of 85% of their 17 budget based on 2015 appropriations.
Okay.
So that's a good news. It's 15% cut, which is the bad news, because I've always advocated no more than a 10% cut. But this is a stopgap measure right now because of the two sides being at polarized differences. And that was going to fund Eastern, Western, and Chicago State, which, that's part of the political climate we have in Springfield right now. Without adding that to it, then this bill would not go forward because we need the Black Caucus, pushing Madigan to allow this to go through.
Exactly.
It was huge for Eastern University in that, and as you know, behind the scenes, I've been pushing, been meeting with the governor's staff. Dr. Glassman's been up there, and he's been pushing. The Western University president's been up there. So the governor drafted this bill, even though Collerton actually was the one that came out with the idea maybe a week or so ago of a stopgap budget. And we dismissed that stopgap budget, the governor and staff and the leaders of the House and Senate on the Republican side, because we really wanted to get a full budget put together.
Okay.
And the governor, as you know, in this budget, in this particular bill, which was their House Bills 6583 and House Bill 6585, what this would do is fully fund K through 12 at the foundation level. So it was more funding for education and more funding for my districts in as far as K through 12 too. So it's a good bill. There's momentum running. Madigan has said he's not totally against it. He wants it to get back out in the work groups. And I think, as you know, we're meeting every Wednesday now for the rest of this month, which it's beyond my pay grade. I don't know why we're not up there every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, until we get this thing finalized, because, K through 12 is coming up.
Yeah. Well, you answer one of my questions is how can the state function without the leaders in Springfield trying to hammer this out? Only one day a week. Can you do it that with only one day a week? Well,
as you know, I'm a first-year legislator, so once again, I don't know how the past is run, but I know I've seen this. They brought that $7 billion bloated budget for 2017 to the floor in 90 minutes. So the leadership of the Democratic Party, which is Michael Mann, he can bring it. We had 11 and a half hours left on Tuesday, I believe it was, the 31st.
Yeah.
We could have got this passed and finished in that time period. The rank and file, which just got to see the governor's proposal, I've spoke to a lot of them. They like the K through 12 funding mechanism, and it fully funds the foundation level for every school in the state of Illinois. And there's other parts to it that are excellent for funding. And then, they can go home and knowing that their K through 12 is going to open up, teachers are going to be there, students are going to have classes. That's very, very important for us right now.
I agree. You said you liked the good news. So is there possible good news that this coming Wednesday that this can get hammered out?
I believe, if not this Wednesday, I still believe in the month of June, this will get hammered out.
Okay.
I think we'll get this stopgap budget put together. I think maybe there is some issues, though. There is pushback. We have 9 public universities, 12 locations, but 9 public universities.
Yep.
This funds at 85% level 17, 3 of those universities. So you understand what that means. 6 of them are going to get 31% of their 17 budget. The idea, though, is that, the 85% that the governor put together was, it was truly above board. These 3 universities are in a position that, there is no extra funds in their checking account to pay for expenses, and this is what it needs. And the governor listened, and he followed through with this. So, yes, I think it's excellent, and I think, how it looks at the end, whether it's 85 or 65%, that's the question.
I also saw where last week the Chicago school superintendent said that his schools could not open unless there's a budget. Or does that concern you at all? I know it's Chicago, but at least when it comes out, it makes national news.
I think about every one of our K through 12s would have difficulty opening up come August without this money. So it's imperative that we get this put together.
I know you probably get asked this a lot, but I want to get it on the record. How long can a state realistically function without a budget? I mean, we're now up at 11 plus months.
I think we're at the end of that right now. I think if we don't do something about it, in June, this stopgap budget is a far cry from what we really need to be doing, but it's an emergency situation that I'm for, I'll vote for, and I'm going to push to get through. Obviously, from our standpoint at Eastern University, we get 85% of our funding of 17 level. Puts us through December. Then after November, you understand why this is all going on.
Yeah, because of that big election in November, maybe?
It's the election in November. I mean, this is where we're deciding who has the power for the next few years. Do we deflate the power of the past 30 years? Take away some of it? And I believe that's what's happening. I believe there's some pushback on state of Illinois and some of the Democratic caucus too.
Now, you said 3 of the schools that would get the 15% cut, are obviously okay with this. Now, the bigger schools or the other schools, they're obviously not happy with that at the 31% cut, but can they survive at 31%?
Yes, they can, and that's the point of it. Yeah. They can survive. They have the funding to get them through to December, and that was the whole point of setting this budget up. And Eastern was in a position that we needed this, to get us through December, and then allow the elections to get through, and then we can finalize the last part of 17 at hopefully something closer to 90%. That's been the general census on our side of the aisle and their side of the aisle. 90%. 10% cut is the most higher education should take.
There you go. You also called for the Auditor General to step down. I did a little unfamiliar about this, but I just read this over the weekend. Talk about that if you can.
Well, Frank Martino is our new Auditor General, and he's quite frankly he has not come forward with his finances and the misspendings that the allegations that we think have taken place. We've asked for him to answer that. I was one of, I think, 11 legislators that when he came to the vote, I voted against him, being our Auditor General, simply because he needed to make some answers. We can't, let's look. People of the state of Illinois don't trust anybody in Springfield now. And if we continue to allow this guy without answering the questions of where these $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of misspending go, why would they continue to trust us? So, for me, we need to be open and transparent, and that's what we were supposed to be doing. And I thought every legislator should have signed on to that letter saying, hey, wait a minute, just like me. I should be open and transparent with my expenditures and expenses. I shouldn't have to, hire the prominent lawyer to protect myself, which is what he did. So he's in protective mode because I got a feeling there could be something under the rock, but until there's, full investigation. And why isn't there a full investigation about this, too?
I mean, that was my next question. What's the next step? Has anybody looked into it?
I don't know why, I've been saying this on the, up in Springfield with the rest of the group that's, why isn't there a federal investigation? Why is the state attorney generals looking into this? There has to be an investigation. Obviously, we understand it's political. So, the machine's going to try to protect one of their own.
Yeah. Scary though, isn't it?
It is.
As a Charleston business owner as well, what have you seen the effects of what's happening here in Charleston? I mean, is business good, bad, equal, or talk about that if you can?
Certainly. We're highly invested in not just Charleston, but Mattoon, Illinois, too, as you know. And there's been a definite, from as far as the students coming back and signing up, we own several apartments in Charleston, and we've seen that slowdown. Now, I'm anticipating that, look, because of this budget impasse, there's going to be a certain amount of students that are going to go out of state. Listen, this isn't just happening just this year, though. This has been ongoing for several years, and I could get you plenty of records that show the out-migration of students has been happening for the past 6, 8 years. And so, there's two things that have to take place. One, our K through 12. We need to fully fund our K through 12. We need to increase the number of students graduating from high school right here in the state of Illinois that would go on to college. So we're only sending about 135,000 students to the public schools, our public colleges. We could increase that. Better graduates, better ready, because if you look at the percentages in the Chicago public school system, 45% maybe are college ready. And I think in Charleston, we're like 56% college ready. We need to increase those percentages. Then we start feeding out of our own market. Then we have to be careful about the cost of tuition for the state of Illinois. We have to be competitive. And how do we get there? That's another story and another time.
We need Dr. Glassman with us maybe today.
Yeah.
If you could just ask Michael Madigan one question, privately, one-on-one, what would you ask him?
Why?
Just why?
I mean, why? What's the end game here for him? What does he want to be known as? Destructor of Illinois in so many ways? Every economic indicator has us rolling downhill. I listened to one of his tapings the other day about the state of Illinois, and he comes across as if he's the savior, their party's the savior of the middle class. Well, look at the middle class in the state of Illinois. It's continually dropped down as far as their wages and as far as standard of living in the state of Illinois. Is that the savior of the middle class? Economic reform bringing good paying jobs? Doesn't that make sense for the middle class to grow? Manufacturing is leaving at 56 manufacturing jobs a day. Doesn't that make sense to stop that outflow of manufacturing and bring it back to the state of Illinois? Who is really the savior of the middle class? It's making jobs. This is common sense reform. Workers' compensation, just that change alone would save businesses billions of dollars in the state of Illinois. It would save $500 million just reforming workers' compensation for the state of Illinois, Springfield government, municipalities. Can you imagine that? Millions upon millions of dollars in that reform. Why is that? He calls that part of the turnaround agenda, the governor, and Madigan calls that a non-starter for him as far as it's not got anything to do with the budget.
And as a first-year legislator, Dale Ryder's been on this show for the past decade. He's been banging that same drum about why we're not, doing any of that reconstruction of that compensation. So you're exactly right on that. Same question though. Hey, Bruce Rauner was here, Governor Rauner. What would you ask him if you could ask a one-on-one time?
Well, I suspect, and it's on everybody's mind, if he were to go back to January 2015 when he took office, what would he do differently? And I suspect, same thing with me, what would I do differently? And every one of us can say that. There are several things I would do differently. I'd make sure I remembered my wife's birthday without fail, because I know what that would cause if you don't. Same thing with him. Maybe he tones down the rhetoric on the unions. Maybe we work together to say, okay, they passed a $36 billion, $4 billion bloated budget in the House that first year, went on to the Senate, and of course, the governor vetoed it, and we brought it back, or we were going to bring it back to override.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have line item vetoed that. Maybe he should have just said, listen. But at the time, he was zero tax increases without his reforms. Now we've come all full circle. As you know, this bill, this stopgap budget, for 50% of 17, has no turnaround agenda whatsoever in it. It also has no new taxes either. And I think that's important. And here's the issue with Madigan. He's saying, okay, he wants revenue, and you all know we're going to need new revenue. Now, where the source comes from, Madigan wants 30 Republicans on there and 30 Democrats. Even though they're the supermajority, he wants to make sure we have 30 Republicans sign on for new revenue. And you know why? Because new revenue means those that sign for that as a legislator, it's a pretty good chance you won't be coming back. Because the people of Illinois, the 10 million other people that don't work for the state government one way or the other, they don't want to see new taxes without true reform, being accountable. And that's another thing I listen to. I don't mean to ramble.
No, you're the guest today, sir.
I heard Speaker Madigan also talk about, the Democratic Party and what they stand for. The idea that this new revenue, they're not willing to sign on to new revenue unless there's some categorically, better policies put in place for the spending plan. Are you kidding me? The spending plan has been theirs up until January of 2015. So it's really like a fork of the tongue,
Gotcha. As a citizen, what should citizens do? I know we've had all kinds of rallies here in Charleston, and I don't know if that means anything, or maybe it does, because people have the voice to do it. But what should citizens do right now? Should they be beating on your door, Dale's door, the governor's door, writing letters, or what would you ask the citizens to do of the state?
Well, that's been kind of the phenomenon that I've seen around Coles County is mostly. I guess because he's a senior legislator, he's got quite a bit of pass as far as the picketing, but basically because his office is Mattoon, mine's in Charleston, they've come to my area. But also part of it maybe is because a lot of the power is in the House now versus the Senate, and that's because Madigan set these things up. Maybe they focus their attention because I'm the representative of the House floor with Michael Madigan. I'm not sure what causes it being a first-year legislator, but here's the thing. It's okay to picket. It's okay to get your name out. It's okay to say, hey, this is what we need. And I get that from every walk of life, not just, education, but human services, all the most needy. I'm talking to all of them. But they're respectful of the idea that, I'm trying to do my very best for each one of those, taking one at a time, trying to deal with what I can. We have agricultural issues that need to be taken care of. And I've accomplished some of those things by being able to get to the governor and get some things done. This particular issue of funding for higher education is the biggest issue in Coles County right now. You got Lakeland College and you got Eastern Illinois University. So it takes a lot of my time. And, the very idea that, people need to understand the focus. You're focusing at Ronner and Reggie Phillips, as if we're standing in the way of fully funding EIU. That is as much a misnomer is absolutely all the way to the far left of it, that idea, because we have proposed absolutely no turnaround agenda terms here, funding EIU. It could have came to the floor on the 31st. Madigan chose not to.
Where do you think these, I don't know what you want to call news reports, rumors, stuff that came that you were anti-EIU came from? Did it come from just rumors on the social media, the Democrats, the Republicans who don't like you? Where did they come from? That's what drives me crazy on this stuff.
And that's the great thing about politics. It's the smoke and mirrors. It's the and who is the expert at this? There was like 5 different bills that came to the floor, all bloated bills that the Republicans took a full party line caucus stance against, all created by the Democratic Party, which was, Speaker Madigan, and then on to Speaker Culleton. It was all for publicity issues. They even admitted it several times, that these fully bloated big budgets, we know the Democrats would pass them. It was the idea of getting us on these party line votes so that they could come back against us and say, hey, they didn't pass these budgets, which would have fully funded social services, fully funded, education, fully funded. Even though there was no path to fund them, there was no money, they didn't attach to it a tax increase. And I said multiple times before the March 15th primary, and I voted for that one bloated budget that came out, right? The only Republican that did, which got me on the hot seat. I said, I'll vote for that bloated budget. But you guys have to come out and tell us how you're going to pay for that budget. You guys have to go on the line and say, okay, we're going to raise taxes here, and this is what we're going to do. They did not do it. And that's what I've been saying. We need to be the voice here. We need to show people that, wait a minute, we're the party of change for the state of Illinois. We're the party of pro-business to bring in businesses, which bring the jobs, the middle-class jobs, to protect it. Instead of eating the scraps, now there'd be good jobs. With more income tax, $6 billion more in income tax in the state of Illinois over the next 4 years would take care of our issues and problems, fund our education, and fund these social services. Why is that complicated?
There you go. The income tax is another issue that people, they're everybody's against it, but in some instances it almost has to go on. And we're going to have see some increase or not, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
it's just coming to what number? Is that what we're looking at?
That's absolutely right. We have $7.5 billion worth of bills that haven't been paid now. 50,000 plus vendors waiting to get paid. We're paying somewhere around $350 to $400,000 or $1 million in penalties on those bills. By the end of July, it's going to Munger, our comptroller, says it's going to be close to $10 billion in unpaid bills. So if we're going into the 2017 budget right now, which starts, at the end of July, tell me.
Into June.
Into June, I mean.
Yeah.
Where's that $10 billion going to come from? How are we going to get that paid? And, there's multiple ideas out there of how we, can consolidate some of our payments, consolidate some of our bonds that we've been paying over a period of time. Instead of paying $7 billion towards our pensions, let's drop that down to, say, $5 billion, take that $2 billion, put it in the general revenue fund. There's multiple areas, and some of them are raising the income tax to 5.5%.
Is that what you'd like, or would you rather somewhere in between?
Oh, you're going to have a combination of the three. We've come up with some ideas. First of all, if we don't pay for the pensions, the $7 billion, $7.5 billion, whatever the payment is, and we decide to re-amortize it, kind of like Edgar did in the Edgar years, and say, okay, I want to see proof that if we did do that, so we don't make those $2 billion in payments to that pension, I want somebody to prove to me that that's not going to be multiplied down the road.
Okay.
And we need to see those facts and figures.
Have you seen a sense of urgency from the public? Have you ever seen a sense of urgency from the public like you see now? I mean, and do the people in Springfield get it? I mean, get that sense of urgency. They understand that people are, I won't say they're in panic mode, but they really are. This is everywhere you go around the state. It's that, what's going on? Because when they know you work at Eastern, it's like, what's going on? What's going on? I mean,
I think absolutely. I got a nice story for you. It was in Capital Facts, which is a newsletter that's put out for legislators and other people who want to sign up for it. Some of the female Democratic caucus members went to Speaker Madigan and asked him to relax, some of his issues and allow some of the turnaround agenda, which one was, collective bargaining reforms, which was huge. And then the next day, Speaker Madigan sent a letter with the names of all those that came to him asking him to relax that pushing against the turnaround agenda to all of the union leaders in the state of Illinois, targeting his own people, And so you see, what that means to me is the rank and file, which is supposed to be doing the budget. We're not doing the budget, you know that, right? I'm on the Appropriations Committee for Higher Education, and we have not met since Ken Duncan was defeated. Actually, I think even before he got defeated by Madigan. It's his own guy that Madigan went after to defeat because he took 3 votes against Speaker Madigan. So they put somebody up against him, and he's out. And he was the chairman of the Higher Education Appropriation, which appropriation means we craft the budget. And all along, we had all of the university presidents in saying, here we can't take these 31.5% cut, which the 30% cut or whatever it was that the governor was proposing in his 16 budget, right?
31 I think was the number.
30 was.
The original number, yeah.
And so after we heard all that, we asked all the presidents, well, what could you take? Not one of them would go on record except for one, Mr. Perry. He said, I would say that Eastern University could handle a 10% cut, but no more. Being my president, my constituent, my county, I stuck with that in all the caucus, all the meetings that we had. Even in our caucus meetings, I said, we cannot go along with the governor's proposal of 31%. It has to be 10%, or the Democrats' proposal of 6.5%. And so that's what the Appropriations Committee's doing. So if we take a 10% cut, right, out of higher education, which was, let's say it's a couple $100 million out of the budget, each Appropriation Committee, chaired by the Democrats and a certain amount of Republicans put in there, came up with appropriations, brought the budget to the full House. That's not what's happening. This being crafted by about a handful of people. It's wrong.
Is it tough for a businessman like you to be involved in this and not just say, heck with it, I want to go back into business? I mean,
I'm telling you what, I'm so frustrated. My wife says, I'm on a blood pressure medicine like I've never been on before because this is crazy. It's crazy that the 118 state representatives, we sit there, we don't say anything on the House floors because this budget's being crafted by a certain few behind the scenes, not openly and transparent like it should be, and we're not all involved. And that's why we've got this, confusion and issues that we have right now. We need to start speaking up and saying, wait a minute, let's bring that to the House floor. You heard Representative Frank say that, I think, it was like May 30th.
Yeah.
He said, this is not the way, and he's a Democrat, and I agreed with him.
There you go. A couple minutes left. Any other news around Charleston or good news? I know you want to talk not just about budget and get y'all excited, but any other stuff you want to talk about? We got a couple minutes left, sir.
Well, you see in the Charleston, Coles County area, there's still a lot. We're getting a new Domino's pizza. There's other things.
Windy City Pizza over here, too?
Yes, Windy City Pizza, deep dish Chicago pizza. I can't wait for that to come on board.
I might try that myself.
Oh, yeah, I'm really excited about that. So there's a lot of good things happening. And here's a good thing. I'm still very, very optimistic that in June, we're going to get this put together. We will have K through 12. I guarantee you that will happen. There's so much pressure up and down the state of Illinois, and all the legislators know we have to fund K through 12. That's going to be the catalyst that brings in these other few things, higher education, some social service funding. We passed a $700 million social service. It's on the governor's desk to be signed now. I have no idea why he hasn't signed that because it was funded without any new taxes. So that would be a huge relief for social services. It's very important that we take care of those people that are in most need too.
And you are running again, I heard.
I'm running again. So we got to, 2 more years. We got to try to fight and do some changes, get some business reforms, and get somewhat of a balanced budget. But that's what I'm trying to do.
And to repeat, the big news, I guess what you said is that you guys are going to meet Wednesdays in June, and you kind of, hopefully, I'll knock on wood, that we'll have some kind of stopgap budget by the end of June is kind of the Reggie Phillips prediction. Fair enough?
I'm going on record. I think it's going to happen.
All right. Thank you for coming in, sir. We'll definitely have you back, and hopefully have you back, and maybe your opponent in the future, and we'll go from there and continue to talk politics here in the great state of Illinois the way we're at now. This is HitMix 88.9 WEIU. Everyone have a great day. Thanks to Representative Phillips for coming in today.
Coles County people know that there is only one choice for new music and classic hits. That sound is HitMix 88.9 WEIU.
HitMix 88.9 would like to thank our listeners for participating in all of our contests. While HitMix 88.9 loves giving away prizes, there are a few rules that you need to remember. Listeners may only win once every 15 days. No transfer or substitute winners are allowed, and prizes must be picked up within 10 days. Employees of WEIU and their families are not eligible to participate in the contest. HitMix reserves the right to change the contest rules at any time, and all local laws apply. For more information, contact us at 581-6116 or at WEIU.net.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The best of our knowledge looks at knowledge, from sitting in the classroom to different ways of learning and thinking. I'm Bob Barrett. Join me every Sunday morning at 4:30 for the best of our knowledge on Eastern Illinois University station HitMix 88.9.